I'm going to do a series of videos on one of my passions, and one of my biggest passions out there is rocks and minerals. So this video I'm going to mainly focus on rocks. I'll talk a little tiny bit about minerals as well, but we'll save that for another video. This video is mainly going to be on rocks. Now there are three types of rocks that we have out there: igneous, sedimentary, and metamorphic. Now let's kick it off with one of my favorite rocks out there, which is igneous. Now, how igneous rocks is formed is you have two types of igneous rocks. You have intrusive and extrusive. Now, an intrusive igneous rock is different from an extrusive. Now, how an extrusive igneous rock is formed is you have magma, liquid hot magma, that's within the Earth's crust. So you have magma that'll travel all the way up the volcano, and it'll spill out as lava coming down the mountain and all the way onto the ground. Now that lava that's on the ground, eventually over time what will happen to it is it'll harden and it'll cool down. Once it does, that forms what we call an extrusive igneous rock. Now how you tell if you have an extrusive igneous rock is by the touch, feel of it, and as well as there's one little test that you could do. Now, you'll see little tiny air holes in that rock. And those air holes are formed from the cooling process. Because it cools a lot quicker than intrusive rocks do, they'll get little air pockets, little air holes that you'll be able to see all over the rock. Now, another way you could test it is if you have a bucket of water, throw your igneous rock into that bucket of water and it'll float because it'll be so light and because it'll be filled up with air. Another way to tell is it'll be very light. It'll be pretty much like you're holding air in your hand. So that is how we get extrusive igneous rocks, is from the lava that is cooled and hardened outside of the volcano. Now, how we get intrusive igneous rocks is that lava, that liquid hot magma, will travel up, but it'll get stuck in these air pockets. And that magma that gets stuck in those little air pockets that doesn't quite make it up that volcano will harden and cool over a period of time, a lot slower than an extrusive rock, but it'll harden and cool down. And what it does is it causes an intrusive igneous rocks. Intrusive igneous rocks will have little crystals in it, and those crystals will come from the cooling process because it does cool so slow. Now, a common intrusive igneous rock is gabbro. Gabbro is intrusive igneous rock, and basalt is an extrusive igneous rock. So those are two rocks that, just in case you're wondering, are intrusive and extrusive igneous rocks, but that's how they're formed though. So intrusive is formed inside the liquid hot magma that didn't make it out of that volcano or didn't make it out of the ground, forms from the inside. It'll cool down and it'll harden inside over a longer period of time. Extrusive is done on the outside of the volcano. Over a period of time, it'll harden, it'll cool, you'll get your extrusive igneous rock. Now, another form of rocks is also a pretty exciting rock called sedimentary rocks. That's right, sedimentary rocks. Now, how these sedimentary rocks are formed is you'll get these little tiny sediments. Now, before I get onto that, you have to keep in mind that thousands and thousands of years ago, our sea levels were much, much higher than what they are now. Our sea levels over those thousands of years have come down all the way to what they are now. So sedimentary rocks have, like igneous rocks, been around for thousands of years. And how they formed is you'll get little tiny sediments that'll float all the way down to that bottom of that lake or ocean. Then you'll get little tiny sediments that'll float on top of that and crush down on that bottom layer. Then you'll get little tiny sediments that'll float on top of that layer, and that layer, the top layer, will crush down on the bottom layer, will crush down on the other bottom layer, creating a layered rock. And that layered rock is known as sedimentary. Now you're probably wondering, well, what is a sediment? What is the sediment that forms up these sedimentary rocks? Well, that's a good question, because what those little tiny sediments are is they're actually made up of other rocks. They could be sediments from metamorphic rocks. They could be sediments from igneous rocks. They could even be sediments from other sedimentary rocks. So that is how a sedimentary rock is formed. It's from little tiny sediments floating down, then little tiny sediments floating down on top of that, and more sediments floating down on top of that, crushing the top layer, crushing down on the bottom layer, and then the other bottom layer. That is how you get a sedimentary rock. Now, a common sedimentary rock is a piece of shale. You could probably find shale at your local beach somewhere. It's a common place for it. Or even limestone. Limestone is a common sedimentary rock. So that is how sedimentary rocks are formed. Now, another type of rock is metamorphic. Now, metamorphic is easy to remember because what does metamorphic mean? Well, it's in the name. What does it mean to morph? Well, morph means change, right? So metamorphic rock means that it has changed. Now, metamorphic rock is either an igneous rock or a sedimentary rock that has been exposed to heat and pressure over a period of time, and it'll change it into a different rock. So take a regular igneous rock, expose it to heat and pressure over a period of time, you'll get a metamorphic rock. Take a sedimentary rock and expose it to heat and pressure over a period of time, and you'll get a metamorphic rock. A very common metamorphic rock is gneiss, with a G. G-N-I-S-S. That is a pretty common metamorphic rock. It actually even used to be a sedimentary rock. Gneiss is granite. Granite has been exposed to heat and pressure over a period of time. You get gneiss. But that is how metamorphic rocks are made. It's just other rocks, igneous and igneous and sedimentary rocks have been exposed to heat and pressure over a period of time. That is how it's made. Now, you have rocks, minerals are measured on the scale as well. Scale of hardness. You have the hardness scale, which is scale of 1 to 10. 1 being the softest, 10 being the hardest. Now, an easy way to figure this out is what is a number 1? Well, number 1 is talc. Talc is a number 1 on the hardest scale because it is the softest. And what's a number 10? Well, take a guess. I'll give you a couple hints. It cuts glass. It's a woman's best friend. Well, if you guess diamond, then you're right. Diamond is a number 10 on the hardness scale. Talc is actually a number 1 on the hardness scale. A good way to actually do this is a lot of people will grab a piece of glass and then they'll grab their rock and then they'll try to cut the glass with their rock or mineral. If it doesn't even scratch the glass, then it is pretty low on the scale. If it does make a mark on the glass or scratch it at all, then it is pretty high on the scale. But those are the different rock types. So you have igneous, intrusive, extrusive. Igneous extrusive is formed when lava goes up the volcano, boom, and then comes down the volcano onto the land and cools down and hardens over a period of time, creating that extrusive rock. Intrusive is magma that doesn't quite make it up, gets trapped in these air pockets, hardens and cools down over a period of time, and forms those crystallized rocks known as intrusive igneous rocks. Sedimentary rocks are made from tiny little sediments floating down, more sediments floating down on top of those sediments, and then more tiny little sediments floating on top of those sediments, which will create layered rocks. They'll squish down over a period of time and you'll get layered rock known as sedimentary rock. Metamorphic rock are igneous rocks and sedimentary rocks that have been exposed to heat and pressure over a period of time, giving you metamorphic rocks. And of course, there's the hardness scale, which I just finished talking about, 1 to 10. If you have a piece of talc, you have a 1. If you have a diamond, you have a 10. Everything else is in between the 1 to 10 hardness scale. Well, like I said, next video, we'll be talking about minerals. So, hit the like button, leave me a comment, let me know what you think, hit the subscribe button for a lot more of these videos. Thanks everybody for paying attention. Have a good day.